Atlanta to LA, I want to say is like 1,300 MQMs or something like that. So I have like an idea of the mileage there.
Yes.
Yeah,
1,300 miles. All
go.
right, Rich, our producer, thank you very much. Some quick map questing.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so look at these records. We've been talking about the severe weather, of course, but this is feeding into it. This is why we're looking at severe weather so far north.
When we've seen this map for weeks, I feel like I've done this map day after day after day here.
Well, I mean, we just before the weekend started, we had 4 days in a row of record highs in the Midwest.
Right, exactly. And we're going to see more of that today. One of the reasons is that large area of high pressure over by Jen. Clockwise flow that brings up the warmth, but as we were talking yesterday,
the front coming in out ahead of it
also does the same thing, brings up a southerly flow. So we're kind of double fisting the warm, conveyor belts.
There's lots of motion in the atmosphere saying go from south to north, move warm air from the south all the way north, and you're going to feel it all the way up into northern Michigan, honestly.
All right, so tomorrow, we're talking 25 to 30 degrees above average. And I feel like, again, we've been seeing these maps more and more often with these warm temperatures.
What's also interesting is it is significantly warm in the east, but it's not that significantly colder in the west.
Right.
That's where it's either average. Yeah, but it's not like the seesaw where it balances out.
I'll tell you where it is balancing, though, over in Europe. We're going to talk about that later, where it's very, very cold and they're seeing a lot of snow there. But in the south, open up the pools.
Or coming close.
Coming close. I mean, it's hard to do in the south this time of year. So here's a look what it actually feels like. It feels more like it's April or May in the south.
New Orleans, 81 degrees. That's much more like late April. It feels like May in North Carolina. There's spots that could get into the 80s in North Carolina. It's quite possible.
And by the way, the official temperature is taken in the shade. And
so there's that too.
So that's what the official is. But if you just like, we're going to be out, in the sunshine. It'll be 10 degrees warmer.
This continues again tomorrow, and then the front sweeps through, and we do cool down to average.
I love this renegade record high here in California.
Is that like Reading or something like that? By the way, one of the warmest Fat Tuesdays ever.
Yeah.
Second of March will look like it, but let's first get you through the next 2 days, which will look like spring very much so. Today, tonight, and tomorrow, and even into tomorrow night, honestly, we got to keep watch on the risk for severe weather. We see that move east. Tomorrow turns into more of a squall line. The front itself moves on through, clears us out, and it clears out the air, right? You're going to get some fresh, drier, more average air, a lot of sunshine, a lot of clear skies getting into the weekend. The place to watch is the west because it does start to get active again by the end of the weekend. More on track, that nighttime threat, and Steph will pick that up in a second. Just want to talk about the fact that we're dealing with tornadoes at all in this number. We go back to January and February, 2 exceptionally warm months and 2 very stormy months, as it turns out. 133 tornadoes reported in January. We look at the numbers still coming in and finalized for February at 29. We're probably going to add another 2 to that, and that does not include what's yet to come with the event tonight and into, today's the last day of February. So we're running 153% of average so far for the year. It has been an exceptionally busy start to the severe season and also a little out of place. So we have a map for where you would typically expect a tornado risk in February. It would be in the south, right? And, especially when you get some subtropical jet stream energy at play, you might expect the southeast into Florida. But this particular year, we have seen reported tornadoes all the way up into Pennsylvania, into Massachusetts. Of course, many reports into the south and east and Texas as well, but also into Kentucky and Tennessee. Again, just out of the typical areas that you might be expecting in February. So as we wrap up this month of February, this very last day, we are going to look for that risk of storms. So we've got our front and our surface low all still crossing the country. It's out ahead of that in the warm sector that we're going to watch for storms to fire later today into this evening. Not associated with the front. Don't worry about the front just yet. That comes into play tomorrow. But for today, we got to watch all that upper level energy we got going on. So at the mid to upper levels, we got very strong jet stream winds. They're coming in here from the west-southwest, just to a couple, say, 1,000 feet below that. You're going to have winds coming in from the southwest, and at the surface coming in from the south. So that slight turning of the winds will contribute to the potential for supercells. The fact that we have exceptionally strong winds at the upper level too will help that air start rotating and potentially give us the rotating supercell thunderstorms and the risk for tornadoes. Now today we've got a 5 in northeastern Arkansas, also in southern Illinois and southern Indiana, 5 out of 10 on the Torcon, and that threat goes up into the overnight. It's a 4 in eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, central Missouri, and central Illinois. We want to make sure that you have a way for something to wake you up if a tornado warning is issued. Have a NOAA weather radio. Make sure your phone is set that it will go off when a warning is issued. Don't rely on the outside tornado sirens because they may not wake you up. Now we take a look at what's going on in St. Louis and timing things out to give you an example. example, you see it's overnight that we're expecting the worst of the thunderstorms to come through. So again, you need a way to wake up. And Steph, tomorrow we watch the storms continue to track east ahead of this front. But talk more about this nighttime threat because it's such a risk. KMHQ is your travel headquarters. We're going to watch really a big changing weather, I think, today. A lot of the day will be fine, but all of a sudden this evening, things are going to change. Yeah, even this morning you're getting a few showers and storms, but it's going to get really wild later on tonight. 51 in Louisville. We've already had some thunderstorms this morning. Light rain in the Indianapolis area. You can see a little bit of a wetness there on the road there. I mean, look, driving to work on rainy roads is never fun. You get the splash and spray in your windshield. People seem to brake sporadically. So we've got that going on. This one little cell now in northern Kentucky has had a severe thunderstorm warning on it. That may happen early today, but more likely it's going to be later today that we watch for that. Breckenridge, Hardin counties until 6 o'clock this morning. Primary threat, maybe a damaging wind gust out of that. Lightning strikes showing up just north of Louisville. We'll see more lightning as we go through the afternoon and evening. So you may get a break in the action, but don't let your guard down, right? Right. I mean, look at this very active map today. Chicago, especially for the evening commute, could be very stormy. Expecting delays at the airport as well for Chicago, starting in the afternoon and continuing into the evening and overnight. That's with another summary of all the active weather we're going to see starting today, tonight, and tomorrow, and even into tomorrow evening. Now, the kind of atmosphere we have out here is much more like late April. If it was more like a February air mass, it would be hard to get this much in the way of thunderstorm activity, especially continuing overnight. But the air and the dew points, everything much more like you would expect in late April. So that thunderstorm threat continues overnight into the day tomorrow as the front moves through and sweeps through. It's a clean sweeping front, cleans out the air mass, kind of like a squeegee, so this takes all that water off of your windshield, right? We're going to clean out the air mass, but we are going to be looking for temperatures a bit cooler compared to what we've been used to. And when I say cooler, I mean average. That's what we're going to be looking at into the end of the week, into the weekend. Got a couple of little systems. One clipper coming through on Friday, believe it or not, could bring some snowflakes into parts of the northeast. Now, shouldn't be a big deal. It's a clipper. It's a quick mover. But we know the thing is a couple of snowflakes coming in at the wrong time of day, like rush hour, could be an issue. So we're going to keep watch on that on a Friday. Saturday, that's out of here. Temperatures are now, again, close to average in the northeast, but warming back up across the middle of the country and the Midwest. And we're back to the 60s in Chicago and in the 70s across the South. Steph, actually in California has just been so unbelievable in the Sierra. Lucky that we are actually getting a break from it. You can see there's an absence of snow this week, but I saw some pictures over the weekend. Some of the ski resorts out here that the lifts just buried. Snow all the way up here to the lifts. So let's talk about where we are getting snow, because we do have a pretty active pattern still in the west. We're getting snow still this morning in Flagstaff. Winter storm warning for you above 6,000 feet until 11 o'clock this morning. Snow wrapping up today, another couple of inches through the morning. You can see it's snowing right now. Travel on 40 will be affected there, and maybe parts of 17 as you make your way southward down through or getting closer to Sedona. All right, so let's talk about what else is happening. And by the way, we just flew through Colorado, but you also are getting some great new snow as well with some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings. Now, as we look at the snowy side of everything happening right now, there hasn't been a lot of cold air, so there hasn't been a lot in the way of snowfall. As we watch our upper level energy swing on through and we'll get this dip in our jet stream to start to dive on in, there will be some cold air and enough that we're going to keep on looking at some snow swinging in through Minnesota and especially into Wisconsin. We think there's a better chance of getting some accumulating snowfall. Again, it's not a significant amount, but any snowfall on the roads, especially if you're so used to the warm, can be significant and be a travel issue. We watch this system as it tracks east through tomorrow. Again, the back edge of it is where we'll see some of that cold air and some of the snowfall coming on in. Chicago, for us, we've gone all of January and February with no snow. We're going to wrap up the month that way. You're not going to have snow on the ground. But farther north, we could see snow into Milwaukee, the potential there for a couple of inches of snow, potentially more than 5 inches into northern lower Michigan, say up around Traverse City, the chance for accumulating snow as well. Again, that's where there's enough cold air matching up with the moisture as that low pushes off to the east. All right, so then next up after that, we've got a little system that's going to be diving down, a clipper type system, an Alberta clipper. So we watch that move east, and in a typical clipper fashion, it doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with, but there will be some snow with it. These things can be very energetic and they can be very surprising as well. So don't be surprised if you wake up here on Thursday and you start to see some snow coming down. Southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. Now we are into March. This is March the 2nd. We've got snow possibly for you there, continuing into northern Indiana, northern parts of Ohio. And then as we get Thursday night and Friday, this is when we start to worry about the northeast, because temperatures behind our front that we're tracking, for the the next 2 days, temperatures cool down, getting us below that freezing mark and bringing in the threat for snowfall on Friday in the Northeast. Not necessarily a big deal, but Steph, we know that any snow on the roads certainly can cause some travel issues. Yes. Let's talk more about the storms, though, because that's sort of the